Good morning or afternoon, or I don't know. I don't know. You know, I, one thing that's been weird on this trip. I'm Zach Halverson, by the way, in Denver, and I encourage you to comment, questions, concerns, suggestions on where to go between here and in Denver and Los Angeles. If you have, I know Brett Blakemore uh, said something about St. George, Utah. I got to look at a map and apparently check that out too. But um, yeah, so any comments, questions, concerns, whatever, we'll make this a two-way road, two-way street, whatever. But yeah, I'm losing track of days. I had to look up what day it was today, and that's weird. And also waking up and having to like think consciously like where I am. Like I totally get now like when like artists are like going are on the road and doing the tours and they're in a new city every night, like how they forget where they are at times. It's weird. Um it's one of the weird more unsettling things about this whole thing is not always knowing where I am. All right, up with the dog. Yes, agreed. Make America whale again. Henry, what has been the worst and best thing that's happened or that you've seen so far on this trip? The worst was on the first day, last Friday. I took one wrong exit. It was like one of those things where there's like exit A, B, C, or D, or whatever. And I took the wrong one. And out in Pennsylvania, I learned that there is uh, no like, there's very few exits on their freeways. Very, very few. And so if you screw up, you can really do yourself in, and that's exactly what I did. I watched on my Google Map, thing in the car. It went from the ETA went up over a half hour, almost like 40 minutes when I made that wrong turn, and I sat in. It was I think 8 to 10 miles one way to the next exit, and then another 8 to 10 miles on the way back, and it was mostly bumper to bumper traffic. And I was shouting loudly at my car and everything. I mean, that was a day of getting up at what 4 o'clock in the morning to get everything set to make sure I had everything, going to work, do the morning show, leave the morning show. What was it? I think it was around 8, and then go to the airport, check in, wait, Memorial Day weekend. The security wasn't horrible, but it was longer than normal. And, then fly and then, you know, get this rental car, sit in this very, it was everything else, everything on that part was good. And the car was great and the car is great. But that was the worst thing. The best thing, it has to be. I remember walking up the morning of on Sunday at the Indianapolis 500, the calm before the storm, and just this this anticipation, and then like, oh my god, I'm actually here. So that would be the best thing for sure. That has happened for, and then best thing that I've seen. Um, I would say that last lap pass of Joseph Newgarden, and it's just unbelievable to be a part of that. Ugly Dog Sports Cafe in Denver. All right, Zach, I will check that. I'm going to the Rockies game tonight. I got tickets, so I got ticket. Very excited. What state has had the best DC so far? Um, I would say Kansas. Kansas. I made a stop in Kansas, and that was had a very good Diet Coke. So, Alvy, if you yes, I love Estes Park. Never fully understood how to pronounce it. Love it up there. Went up there back in November. Just went up to the Stanley and walked around a little bit. But I've also done the Trail Ridge Road up at Rocky Mountain National Park. Well, I've had lunch there. My one time, it really bugs me that this was like 7, 8 years ago now that I'm this old. Because that was like a big deal. My buddies, Cole and Chad and I were I went on a trip to Denver, and we drove up to Estes Park, and we had lunch there. And my buddy Cole was, I probably shouldn't say his name, but whatever. It's fine. It's been like a long time now. He was so inebriated that we paid for the meal, right? He paid for it was like a pizza place or something. And you ordered and you paid for it outside, and then you walked inside to eat it, right? To get it and eat it, whatever. And they had a massive, like, big popcorn bucket size clear jar that you could use to tip and drop cash in. And so Cole was nice enough to tip it and put money in there. But then he was so confused and, like I said, inebriated. He grabbed the tip jar and like walked into the restaurant with it, while the guy was just like looked at him like, "What are you doing?" And Cole was like, I don't know." And then he turned around and brought it back to the front. But good times in Estes Park. Um, Stop for gas food in North Platte, Nebraska is a must. I wish it would have been fun to go to through Nebraska too, but I am unfortunately past that. When you talk about the other morning, thank you. And that's the wildest thing. I was fully expecting to be like, oh, it's not all Missouri drivers. I've never had that. Blah blah blah. I've had nothing but good time experience. I've not had one person defend Missouri to me. I'd love to see it. If you are in here and you say, it's really not. Everybody I've talked to, locals, other folks, they've all said Missouri. That was. I'm still, as you can tell, a little fired up by it. That was, and it started right away. It started as soon as I crossed the bridge into Missouri, and I thought, okay, well, we're in a metropolitan area. People are weird, but once it gets out to the more open part of once we start getting closer to like Columbia and beyond, it'll start to free up, and it never did. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, Missouri, I had the worst 3.5 hours of my driving life in that state. Not fun, not fun. They just the story. I don't know if I told this on the air. I don't know if we had time, but the story I'll never forget was going. I don't know how many miles, how long. I lost track because I was so furious. But we were going. This is a 70-mile-per-hour speed limit freeway. We were going in the left lane about 65 miles per hour, about 10 to 15 cars deep. So I was not the only one who experienced this, but I wonder if I'm like one of the few people who was actually angry, and if the others were just from Missouri and used to this. But at the front of our line was this RV, and this person was driving the same speed as the semi truck to the person to their right. And so we have a semi truck in the right lane, this RV in the left lane, going side by side like it's a drag race or something. But they're both going very slow, 65 ish miles an hour. And finally, they come across a semi truck that's going in the right lane that's going even slower than them. And the RV in the left lane, instead of, I don't know, just passing that semi and continuing, slows down to, and I saw on my dash, I would think we were down to like 55, back to 58, eventually slows down and lets the semi truck to their right pass the slower semi in front. And that was when there were blood pressure concerns and a lot of I've never seen that before. I've never seen that before. And in addition to that, when it finally got free, when people finally got around, it was just this constant, finally I can set my cruise to 70 or like 72, 73, whatever. You like to go a little bit over. I'm not speeding. I'm just trying to go the speed limit. I'm just trying to go 70. And you finally get to that point, and then there's a more, you know, convoy of vehicles who are just driving side by side slowly. Not, it's again, worst experience ever. I hope you never have. That literally that could have been the punishment right there. That could be a punishment in future church challenges just drive from St. Louis to Kansas City and not crash your car into the side of a bridge? Um, oh, that's a good question. Ah, man, that's a great question, actually. Muppet the dog asked if you could pick two KFAN on-air employees to tag along with you on this trip. Who would it be and why? Oh, man. I'm tempted to say, I think number one's got to be Hawk. I think just because I've traveled so much with him already, I think he would be, he, I not even, I think, I know for a fact he would be fun. So I would say Hawk is number one for sure. Outside of that, Max is probably up there. Max would be fun. I love Max, and he loves traveling, and he would get me out of my shell a little bit, and we'd have some fun wherever we went. So I would say Max and Hawk would be the two employees, and just because they are fun, adventurous people that I think would have as much fun, if not more fun, with the trip than I would. So, on this trip, Ross says, on this trip, have you contemplated not playing the football challenge again? Yeah, yeah, I have. I did it last year too when I smoked that turkey and didn't, driving up to Roseau. Man, we got to figure out other challenges that don't involve long driving, but and of course, if you remember, Fountain to Roseau was that was one hell of a trek. So thankfully, I think I did it smart. If I remember right, I think I went home first and then drove from there to Roseau. But actually, Roseau, the problem is, I will say, everybody's like worried about this challenge not being quote unquote punishment. This has been worse than that because not many people. I didn't hear many criticisms of that not being a punishment. And certainly, by the way, the financial aspect of that turkey and all that did not help, particularly with car insurance and everything. But uh, Roseau ended up being one of like the best nights of my life. They had a bunch of this group of rubes that went there and met me at the bar and ended up being in our hotel too. Met some really cool people. Met Austin and Chase and Brady and a couple other. It was really awesome. So in fact, to the point where like I was trying to figure out like could I swing at some point this summer some like other weekend where I can go up to Rosa. The problem is it's just so damn far away, man. You forget about it. I mean, it's I think it's a faster drive to Chicago than it is to Roseau. So that's the only problem. So anyway, yeah, good question. Says Ross. Yeah, I agree. But that was awesome. Time for the challenge to do this again with different people, different interests. Yeah. So, admittedly, obviously, and because people keep out, oh, it sounds like a great, vacation. It sounds like awesome. Like I would love to. Um, I there are and been admittedly like some cool things obviously about this. I'm not denying that, but doing this alone has not that has sucked most of the fun. Perhaps not all, but most of the fun out of any of this. It's really hard to enjoy. I always thought that I would like to do a solo trip like this, but the amount of times where it's like something cool happens or something that even just seeing the mountains this morning, like it's fun to share that with people. So I would do something like this if I ever had the time to. And also, by the way, I'd like to like actually explore the cities I'm in. I got to Pittsburgh in at like 9:30, and it's like you see these beautiful bridges and tunnels and stadiums and this downtown area, and I'd love to like I'm a stadium tour nerd, so I'd love to do stadium tours. I'd love to do all that stuff. I got in at 10 and I was gone the next morning, like 12 hours later. Like, so I guess I can say I've been to Pittsburgh, but can I really say I've been to Pittsburgh? Can I really say I was in Kansas City? I spent some time in Indy, so that was nice, but I'd also have been there before. Hadn't been to KC, didn't get to do anything. Ended up basically taking the the St. Louis version of 694. So I bypassed I didn't even see the arch. I didn't see any of the stuff in St. Louis. So it would be fun to actually do this, given time to do stuff in each city. But yeah, so I would, and also with people and who maybe would like to, and would like to go somewhere other places too. I picked this route because of the familiarity, because it was just about getting it done. So I'd been to Denver. I know I could have gone through Oklahoma. I could have gone through some other states that I hadn't been to before. Um, but this was a much a more familiar route, especially being alone and having to navigate on my own. And thank God for like GPS. Now I don't know how I would have done this alone without a lot of this stuff. I took a wrong turn even with some of the best navigation tools we've ever had. So I said this in a live stream yesterday, but I can't even imagine doing something like this without like a Google Maps, like with the Rand McNally, the giant map books. It's crazy to think that that's how people had to get around, but that's how it was. Uh, Side by side drivers can rot in hell, says Andy. I agree, Andy. And yes, I agree. Hawk and Maxo would be Ryan. Hawk is definitely number one. Again, I traveled thousands of miles, probably tens of thousands of miles if you were to add it all up with Hawk. And that might have been just on that trip to Rapid City for a burrito alone. So, man, Sweeto Burrito, which, funny story, there is Sweeto Burritos still in Utah, but it's about 2.5, 3 hours off the freeway. And so I'd have to go north towards Salt Lake City and basically drive 6 hours round trip, which wouldn't be the longest I've driven to for a Sweeto burrito, but as part of this whole journey, I couldn't really make that work, unfortunately. So sorry, Sweeto. Favorite food spot so far on the trip? Um, I haven't really eaten anything fancy. Overly. I was kind of stuck to the solids, and one of them was Raising Cane's on High Street. Raising Cane's on High Street in Columbus, Ohio. At Hit the Spot, they knocked it out of the park. I mean, they're every Cane's is good, but there's some that just, I mean, next level, and that was really good. Maybe it was just because I was excited about that 21 Pilots thing, but it was cool. Cool. Columbus, Ohio. I wish again another instance where I wish I could have maybe gone and seen the Ohio Stadium and wandered around campus but yeah, that's cool. At least say I've been to Columbus. Stay Fair T-shirt, a map with travel. Yeah, possibly. I will. Thank you, Licorice. I will pass that idea along at all. I don't think this sounds awesome at all. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. You'd be surprised at the amount of people who are questioning. We just don't think it's a big of a punishment. It's um, yeah. I mean, I drove. So we'll talk yesterday. And I think I mentioned it a little bit this morning on the show, but about an hour or two into the drive in Kansas, which was night and day between Missouri and Kansas. Night and day drivers. Kansas, they stayed out of the freaking way. There were long stretches where I looked in front of me, there was no cars, and I looked behind me, and there maybe was one. It was awesome. 75-mile-per-hour speed limit, and I'm just trucking. And I'm like, well, you know what? Colby is in 3 hours from now. Denver is in 6. Now, by the way, now that I think about it, I was probably 3 hours in because that's what the numbers I remember. So, but it had gone fast enough where I didn't even register that I'd already been on the road for 3. So it was like, well, you know what? I did a long, drive yesterday, and I was miserable, but I was, this is a lot easier. It's a lot more, and so I ended up kind of contemplating, and then I was like, well, if I can just truck through to Denver, I could have a day where I'm just not, doing this, which is just kind of not driving because it was, 8 hours or something before from Indianapolis to Kansas City, so then another 9 to Denver, and I was like, it's been a lot of driving. I can just get in, get settled, and so I changed my mind. was also oddly enough worried about Colby and the internet situation and my phone situation and making sure the connection was going to be good. Obviously, knowing Denver is a very it's a metropolitan area, well, good big good sized city. Yeah, I thought it would be a very easy way place to connect. Turns out not the case. I don't know if I want to throw this hotel brand under the bus here, but it's one of those higher, not high end, like it's not like the Four Seasons or anything, but it's like I guess medium. Um, and they do the thing. I connected to the Wi-Fi yesterday, and it was they gave you the free option, which is, by the way, in 2024, with how cheap internet is, should be the case everywhere. It should all be free. But they gave you a premium option, which is faster, where you can stream video and stuff. It was like 4.95 a day, and I'm like, I don't want that. I and whatever. And then I'm like, well, you know what? Let's see how the free Wi-Fi works. If it's too slow, then if I have to. Well, sure enough, it's too slow. And I noted that last night, and I texted him. I'm like, "Is there a way?" Because I couldn't get back to the page to spend the $5 on actual good internet, so I could do the show in the morning. And they basically told me, no, the only way would be to check you out and then check you back in. That would the only way to reset, which is another flaw in this stupid system. Again, shouldn't be the case. Just give every other whatever another trigger. So this morning, connected in, there was really no way of testing our connection back to the studio. So, and of course, I noted it right away that it was not good. And so eventually, and you can still see kind of in the distance over there. Maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. But there's the my backpack. I loaded up our a couple of cables and a headset into that backpack. Went downstairs, got my car, and I drove around and did the show from my vehicle for the most part until I got to about 8 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock here, and I realized, well, traffic's going to be bad, so I better get back to downtown. So I did, and did the rest of the show around Union Station, if you believe it. So walked around, and I had a headset on, this big, huge announcer headset, and people looked at me funny, but that's how it works. Any place looks good enough to move to. You know what? I had that thought out east, in that Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania corridor. I'm like, you know what? This is nice. It's around a bunch of different towns. You can. That's the weirdest thing. It's like these places you can go 2.5 hours. You can go complete. Like Columbus, for example, 2.5 hours gets you to Cincinnati, Cleveland, Indianapolis, a little bit more, but like 3 hours to like Pittsburgh. It's a much smaller world over there. Where here it's like you go 2.5 hours and get to Brainerd. You're like, oh, that's great, but like Brainerd, but or Duluth, or you go a little further, you go to Bemidji. But these places here, you go to major cities, and so. But I did kind of like that area. It was very beautiful and calm and peaceful. So I have, never thought of it before because I'd never been there before, but I'd say that West Virginia area and surrounding areas, I did like that. Um, yeah, thank you, James. Thank you. Yeah, and even it's like the amount of people who just have like their own way of thinking this. The biggest wild card you got to remember is, and I have to get up at half hour before the show to try to make all this connection stuff work. Thankfully, I'm good at it. I'd loved. It would have been interesting to like if some of these guys from the broadcast angle, if they had lost, how they would have been able to connect and how they would have struggled, because I struggled this morning. And eventually, when you have to get in your car and drive around, and I got halfway to Boulder before turning around. It was an interesting morning. Stadium tour, or what's your favorite stadium you've been to so far? Any sport and bucket list one before you die? Um, oh man, that's a good question because I've thought about this, and hopefully I don't think I'll ever do it. So whatever. If I really feel the idea and somebody steals the idea, great. But some of the coolest people in the world are the stadium tour, uh, like tour guides. And so I had a great tour up in Lambeau. Um, what else? Coors Field, I did toured in November, and that's why I'm going. I mean, that's the funny thing is like these stadium tours. If you got a cool enough stadium, they're a really good selling point because all I could think about after the Coors Field tour was getting uh, back down here and to see games. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing the Coors Field tonight in a game capacity, not just on a cold November afternoon. I've done Mile High. That's good. What else? Yeah. What's your favorite stadium? I would say, the I gotta put Coors Field up there. Um, because it just there was a lot of detailed history, a lot of cool things to look at. But yeah, I would say, yeah, I don't know. I guess from a tour perspective, Coors Field, stadium I've ever been to that's awesome. Tottenham, that place was just it felt like a whole different world there in terms of being at a stadium, just the amount of different stuff. Like so that would probably be one I would say bucket list. And it just was loud, naturally loud. So I imagine during a football match, it's crazy, but even a football game. So if can get to London this year or beyond and go see Tottenham, no, it's not cheap, obviously, but highly recommend that place. That was awesome. So yeah, says no to the Oregon Trail style. Yeah. La Casita. I was I thought about it, but I don't like. I'm a picky eater, and I don't like that stuff as much as I should to go to a place like that. Or no, I'm thinking of Casa. I don't know. I'm just gonna move on. Sorry, Tim. That's what he said. Set by a meteor crater in Arizona near Flagstaff. Uh, that was one of the places I was gonna go through potentially, even as potentially as late as last week because of I looked into possibly going to detouring down to Dallas for last night's Game 5, which turns out would have been actually fun, but I was very glad I didn't make that detour. Uh, any encounter with prostitutes? Says James. No, no, no. I have not seen those yet. Um, dear God, that would be amazing. Keynes's a chicken bacon toast, amazing. Uh, yeah, I don't know. It's close. The walk initially I thought I would like, but then watching Hawk do it, and watching what it did to his feet, yeah, it's yeah, yeah. Five, sometimes five. What's the most I pay for gas? I have no idea. That's 340s maybe. But it has been interesting seeing the gas prices fluctuate. There's definitely been places where it's gone below three. Um, but yeah, I haven't paid too close attention to how much they are. Um, let's see here. How much? No, no, none. I don't know if I would pay, but sauce. I think that would be that's it would take money for Sauce to go. He would have to be paid a lot of money to do anything like this. My favorite memory, and this is not a bit. We are leaving for Rapid City, South Dakota, and I think we made it pretty clear where we were going. And I think we even mentioned how crazy it was that we're driving like 8.5, 9 hours to the western part of South Dakota for a burrito and back. But it was COVID times, and we had nothing better to do. And Sauce was down, and then he, for whatever reason, thought we were going to Fargo and back, and didn't realize it until we were about a half hour into our journey, and it was pretty shocking for him. But he ended up being a really good sport. And I'll tell you what, that 5, 10, 15 mile per hour over speed limit guy, Was definitely more closer to 15, and that could have been really bad from a ticket perspective. But thankfully, uh, my charm and smile got us out of it. It wasn't actually. I was very nervous. Um, yeah, stopping in Vegas, um, going to the Canes on the Strip. That's priority uno. I might try to find a sports book, not necessarily do any betting, but just to watch. I think there's going to be something on that night. I hope so. Yeah, staying on the Strip. I got it's a I got a comped room or whatever, so I'm staying. Think I get Aria or something. So yeah, should be a weird time to drive in. It was weird for Denver too. I'm so used to flying in here and driving the 3.5 hours from the airport to downtown. But I got to drive right into town here, so I'll be interested in a drive into Las Vegas as opposed to flying. So um, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I was very nervous and on the TCL show last year, and happy it turned out the way it did. So let's see here. Uh, great, thank you, Marcus. Great addition. um, yeah. Hi, Jason. Again. I've not been to Texas. I gotta get to Texas. I Part of me is wondering if I should have found a way to include that in this trip, but whatever. Too late, I guess. Yeah, that sucks. That sucks. When you announced the date, I was like, oh no, oh no. But yeah, Hawkfest should be fun. Very much looking forward to seeing the videos and the pictures, and not looking forward to the FOMO that I will almost certainly feel. So, um, yeah, unfortunately, that would be a very wild audition. I could have, that would have been maybe a funny bit, is if I just because there was, as we've talked about, like no restrictions, like you just had to be alone and you had to get from one city to the other. Didn't really. That would have been funny if I just milked the living hell out of this. Just drove all over the place. Like gone to Denver, gone back to Dallas, Fort Worth, then to like I don't know South Carolina. Just spend like 2 months away from do what they are uh, they think I'm doing here, but actually do it for like 2 months. Just go, just not even ever come back. Oh man, Anders, get on the road. I will be tomorrow morning. Part of the reason why I'm not going anywhere today is because again the plan was made. This whole plan was made months ago, and I basically, you know, I didn't know how I was going to be feeling. I wanted to be safe. I didn't want to be like, I could have, I guess, in hindsight, I could have just gone and made just gone up to a hotel and that said had the whole no or had the whole vacancy sign on, the flashing neon vacancy sign, and just gone as long as I felt. But no, instead I just played everything out months in advance. So I have this room through tonight, and so I'm gonna stay here tonight, and then I'm gonna go to Utah tomorrow, where I've got a reservation out there before moving on to Utah. So, our Vegas. So I'm hoping that Utah has television and internet because hopefully I'm gonna watch the Wolves. So heard the wind was so bad in Dallas it actually pushed the plane backwards 100 feet. My lord, yikes! The wind was pretty bad here too. That's kind of why I'm wondering why I'm in my hotel room. I went down at the street level and the wind was whipping everywhere. And so I was going to maybe try to do like a walking through downtown type thing, but I don't think it would have sounded good. It would have been tough. So, um, so mile high. Yes, thanks, Roy. Um, yeah, again, it's great that he thinks it. Yeah, the funny thing is he's the one who helped develop it. It's like, get that, whatever. I think he wanted to lose. I think you know what it is? I think it's just jealousy. I think he wanted to get the hell out of town for a little while. So, all right, Rodney, thank you very much. In fact, we'll probably, wow, it's been a half hour already. That's gone fast. So, Thank you to all of you for tuning in. Keep checking hashtag KFAN Road Trip. Thanks to all of our wonderful sponsors. I'm going to open this one up tonight. I know you guys really care about my shower schedule, but I've got this awesome. Look at this. Duke Cannon big ass bar of soap, a brick of soap. I'm sorry. Funny thing is, I even said big ass before I even realized that's literally what they say. Big ass brick of soap. That's a big ass brick of soap. So stock. No, yeah, look at that. So midnight swim. It's awesome. So I'm gonna go hop in the shower and find some things to do in Denver. I wonder what those could be. And then go to a baseball game and then get back out on the road tonight. So thank you to all of you for all that. Stay away from turkey and deer. I will definitely do that. Bye. Hugs and kisses. Love you, Ross. Love you, Moppet. Everybody else. Thank you for joining. And we will see you in Utah tomorrow and Vegas on Friday. And then finally in Los Angeles on Saturday. So hashtag KFAN Road Trip.